And to start with this, just a short introduction on myself. My name is Stefanie and I'm the Education Counsellor from IDP Singapore. So today I'm going to share with you the information on studying vet science in Australia and New Zealand. If you have any questions during my presentation, please feel free to drop the message in the chat box. I will answer towards the end of the presentation. Okay, so yes. Okay, so this is what we are going to cover today. We will start off with the overview of vet science, who should become a vet and how to become a vet. I will cover the professional recognition as well, followed by the undergraduate vet science uni and postgraduate vet science uni. I will cover the entry requirement and also the profile of some vet school as example. And also the Casper test that are required by some of the university. Lastly, we will wrap up with the FAQ session with the costing and also the application process. So without further ado, let's start the topic today. Okay, just to give you a little bit of the overview, the veterinary field has become increasingly popular in Singapore these days. There is a demand for manpower in the pet sector. So if you are considering to become a vet, studying in Australia or New Zealand is definitely a good choice for you. Later, I will share about the entry requirements and professional recognition upon completion of the course. Okay, so what are the important skills you need to be as a vet? And who should become a vet and what to expect? So today, if you love animal, it is a very good start, but it isn't enough because vets are surgeons, they are dentists, they are radiologists for animal at all once. Their studies are intense and do not lose out to medical degree in any way. Okay, so as you can see here, as a vet, you could be involved in day-to-day care of family pets such as dogs and cats, to provide regular vaccination and checkups, to diagnose and treating illnesses and injuries, to perform the surgical procedure. So it will be good that if you have a number of skills to be more compatible. So firstly, you will expect to have highly interested in scientific knowledge related to animal and wildlife. Veterinary medicine covers a wide range of animal functions and well-being. Not only covers animals, but also human in relation to certain infectious disease that can spread from animal to humans. For example, like bird flu. And you also expect to have good relationship skill with animals. What do we mean by that? Okay, so animal is your patient, and unfortunately, they cannot speak or even complain about their pain to you. It is your specialty as a vet to diagnose and treat the animals. So as a vet, you will also need to communicate effectively to the pet owner, such as giving medications and instructions. Lastly, will be the ability to work under pressure. So to be honest, for veterinary medicine industry is one of the toughest industry due to its demand and importance. They function 24/7 and need officers who are able to work under fast pace. Okay, so after the introduction of the vet science, I will move into the next topic. How to become a vet and how long you need to study. In general, to become a vet upon completion of your high school, You can choose to take a 5 or 6 years undergraduate vet science course if you meet the entry requirements. And usually the entry will be via IB Singapore GCE levels or even polytechnic diploma. Of course, there are alternative pathways. Some students who are still unsure whether they want to become a vet or whether they want to study vet science, you can also complete a 3 or 4 years relevant undergraduate course, such as biomedical science or Bachelor of Science for 3 years before heading to a graduate entry into DVM. So these are the career options for you upon completion of your undergraduate and the DVM, such as veterinarian, veterinary surgeon. Okay, so we move to the next slide. Okay, I will share with you about the professional recognitions. To practice vet in Singapore, you are required to apply and obtain a vet license from NParks or AVS, the Animal and Veterinary Service Singapore. So most of the Australia and New Zealand uni, they are fully accredited by the professional bodies here, and they are all accepted qualification to obtain a vet license in Singapore. So the graduates are eligible to practice vet medicine in Australia and also a number of other countries, including Singapore, UK, New Zealand, Malaysia, Hong Kong, or even US. Okay, so I will start to share with you about the undergraduate vet science. In Australia, we have 5 universities that are recognized and approved by AVS, the Animal and Vet Service of Singapore, which are Chartered University, James Cook University, Murdoch Uni, University of Queensland, and University of Sydney. Whereas for New Zealand, we have Massey. Okay, so what are the entry requirements for vet science for undergraduate entry? We have the most common entry, which is via Singapore A levels, the IB diploma or the polytechnic diploma. Okay, so as you can read from here, this is how the university will convert the Singapore A-level score, and IB diploma will require a minimum 34 points. But of course, there are some exception cases, for example, like University of Sydney, the calculation table will be in a different way of calculation, and you can check with our counselor later. Okay, so for the entry for the polytechnic student, some university, they have credit exemption for students who complete their polytechnic diploma from Ngee Ann Poly and Temasek Poly in the diploma in vet bioscience and diploma in vet tech. Okay, so for the minimum GPA requirement will be different for each uni. It will require a high GPA for the entry, and you may check in details with our counselor later on. Okay, so any prerequisite subjects or recommended subjects? Yes, in general, there are prerequisite subjects or assumed knowledge required, such as English, chemistry, advanced mathematics, or biology. Comes to the admission process, it is very important to take note all the application deadline. The supplementary forms and the animal handling references can be sent as additional information as many. Okay, so there are some supplementary document is required by some of the university as well, such as a 500 words of personal statement, the references letter, and also many schools, they have their own specific supplementary forms. So for the personal statement, basically you will need to outline your motivations and your ability for the vet science program. So okay, here for the animal handling experience, I will cover a little bit here. So if you think you don't have enough animal handling experience, or you are worried that you don't have experience in handling big size animal, for example, okay, so it doesn't matter, because you can even describe any animal handling experience, even taking care of your own pets. You can describe any involvement in the intensive care of unwell pets over a sustained period of time, rather than a day-to-day routine. So of course, it will be good that if you have the experience with a vet clinic or zoo, because you probably get the experience of perform or witness a certain procedure. Okay, so we move to the next slide. Okay, you can see here, we have a very complete information on our matrix for vet science. You can get a copy from our counselor. So among the 5 uni here, that I'm going to take Murdoch Uni as example for today's presentation. Okay, so for Murdoch Vet Science, it is a 5-year double degree program. You will graduate with a double degree of Bachelor of Science in Vet Bio and a DVM for a total of 5 years. So a few things to take note. As you can see from the table here, they have different round of application deadline. Applications are assessed 5 times a year. So you need to ensure your application and documents are submitted by the dates. There are some desirable subjects from year 12, and also the entry requirements, which is really high. And it is require 15 points in A levels and 38 points in IB. Some additional documents is required as well, such as 500 words of personal statement, the animal handling experience, side references, and a recent CV, IELTS test. Okay, so a few highlights for Murdoch. They are the first vet school with its own farm on campus. They are vet school which is also a 24-hour vet hospital, which students will be doing some practical training with real patients. They are accredited with a number of leading associations around the world. As I mentioned earlier, like the graduates are eligible for registration to practice vet medicine in Australia and a number of other countries. They are ranked 42 in the world for vet science. Okay. We move to the graduate entry for the vet science program. Okay, so there are 3 universities in Australia that are recognized in Singapore, which are University of Adelaide, the University of Sydney, and the University of Melbourne. Okay, so the same thing here, that you can get a copy of our matrix from the counselor. And a few things to take note is the entry requirements and also the prerequisites. So for the graduate entry, you will see here, some uni will take 7 years duration, or some is only a 6 years duration. Okay, so you will need to complete a Bachelor of Degree in Science or a Bachelor of Biomedical Science with specific major, and get a minimum GPA for successfully entry into the DVM. And of course, certain prerequisite subjects are required in your bachelor degree as well. Okay, so I am going to take University of Melbourne Doctor of Medicine as example. Okay, so there are 2 entry pathway for UML DVM, which are accelerated entry pathway and graduate entry pathway. So as you can see here, the standard duration for UML DVM is 4 years duration if you enter via the graduate entry pathway. And student can complete a 3 years undergraduate science course in UML or other institution, either in Australia or overseas, and then continue your graduate pathway into another 4 years of DVM. Alternatively, there's another entry option, which is via the accelerated pathway. You will need to do a Bachelor of Science with a vet bioscience major and comes to a total duration of 6 years study. When you complete your Bachelor of Degree and the DVM. Okay, so but of course, there are some prerequisites is required in your Bachelor of Science course for the accelerated pathway, and you will need to maintain certain GPA, and also the important things to take note is the selection into the vet bioscience major is at the end of your 2nd year Bachelor of Science study. Okay, so we will move into the next slide. Okay, so additional things to take note is the Casper test. Okay, some university will require applicant to take Casper test for the vet science program, such as UQ, University of Sydney, and Unimel. So Casper test is a 100 to 120 minutes online situational judgment test. So some students, they will ask, do I need to study for the Casper test? Okay, Casper test is not your traditional test, and it is not a test that required memorization. In fact, memorizing anything isn't going to help you because they are assessed in your behavior, such as personal and professional characteristic. So usually they will ask what you would do in a tough situation and why you make such decision. And from there, they can understand your behavior, whether you are suitable to become a vet. So when you click into the link, it shows you the test date of respective uni. And if you wish to prepare for the test, you can refer this link for some tips to prepare for it as well. Okay, so we comes to the FAQ session, which I will cover the costing and also the application process. Okay, so what are the costs and how much you need to prepare? Okay, the budget consideration must be given to not only the tuition fee, but also your accommodations, your living expenses, and your OSHC, which is the Overseas Student Health Cover. This is the references for you. You can see here, stated here, how much the annual living cost for every state. The OSHC will be approximately $500 per year. And the tuition fee, there is a range for every uni, which is roughly between 60K to 80K per year. Okay, so for the application process, how to apply? Okay, so application process is very straightforward. You can get all the forms from our counselor, and you will need to prepare for your academic documents, your personal documents such as passport copy, okay, and the additional documents such as your personal statement, the reference letter, the supplementary forms, which you can get from our counselor as well. So our counselor will assist you on the application process. Okay, so some additional document including CV and the Casper test as well. So, okay, that's all for today. I hope today's presentation will benefit you. Here is the generic email for the IDP. If you have any specific questions, you can approach to our IDP counselor for the one-on-one session. I will also available at the launch, and you can approach me if you have any questions. Okay. Thank you.